Hey folks, it's Keith, Victor Echo 3, Sierra Victor Quebec, here today with another video looking at learning CW or Morse code. And I thought for this time of the year, it's December, and this will actually be, I think it's video number 107, so it's surprising how fast all of them go up there over time. But there's a time of year when a lot of people like to start to think about what they want to do next year. And in my case, a couple of years ago, it was relearn Morse code, what I had learned back in 1988, 89, 90, back around then. And there are lots of ham radio operators out there, many of us older, many of us who had to learn it, to get our license back then, whether you were in Canada, Britain, or the US, some of the rules were pretty much the same. And in my case, on December the 11th, 2021, I was in one of those moods where you stop and think, what do I want to do in the coming year? So, not that long ago, today's the 14th of December. So, 2024. So a couple of years ago, basically. And I sat back and I said, what do I want to do? And somewhere in my brain it said, go learn Morse code. And so the process begins. Now, in my case, I would do almost a year on my own, trying on my own, because I'm one of those people. I don't want to sit in a class. I don't want to listen to people give lectures and all that type of stuff. So I registered for one of those programs, one of the websites, I should say. I got all sorts of apps, and away I went. And a year later, I still wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I wasn't on the air. So, of course, you begin to look at the process. Was the process wrong? What was I doing wrong? Well, now I know I wasn't consistent in the studying. I could go a few days, solid, and then all of a sudden take 1 or 2 days would get missed. Why? Work got in the way, life got in the way, whatever. And then sometime back around, I guess, December of 2022, looking on YouTube for all the reasons as to why I wasn't on the air, and I came across Howard from the LICW Club and some of the presentations that he gives on learning Morse code, and there was some things that rang a bell with me, and I liked his approach. So, of course, that led to eventually joining the LICW, and full disclosure, I do teach one of the beginner level classes for them. So what I want to do today is look at some of the things that people who are deciding to take Morse code, those who are thinking about maybe taking it over, in January, in the new year, and so on. What are some of the issues you get all caught up on? Keep in mind, we all learn differently. What worked for me, the course or the path that I took, may not work for you. I may learn faster than you. I may learn slower than you. We're all different. So when you go looking for a path and you go looking for a way to learn Morse code, keep in mind there's lots of different ways to learn. There are lots of organizations that teach, right? LICW, CW Academy, CW Innovations, and loads of other organizations, ham radio clubs, the Elmers who you can go over to and sit with, and they'll teach you the code and so on. Loads of different ways to do it. Find the one that works for you. Stick with it. So let's look at some of what I consider to be issues when you start. So the first one, being a professional student. So what's a professional student? Well, this is someone who registers for a course, and maybe it's just not the right course for them. But whatever the case is, they take the course, they don't get on the air, because that is the ultimate objective, right, folks? It's get on the air. They don't get on the air. So was it the course? Was it them being too nervous, about making those first few contacts? Who knows? But they then register with another organization or another app, or they go on a different website, all sorts of different things. And they keep taking course after course after course. As an example, you might be a student that's learning, say, at level 1. And you take it over and over and over again because you're not perfect yet, failing to realize that you're probably never going to be perfect. Every method out there can get you on the air. Now we can get into the big debate about which method is the best. And obviously the organizations that teach it think their method is the best one. But in the end, every one of them will get you on the air. None of those methods are going to prevent you from getting on the air if you put in the effort and time. So it's not necessary to go shopping around, try this one, this app didn't work, let's try another app. This course, I registered for it, I don't like the instructor, so I go try another organization somewhere. One of those methods will work for you and your personality, your study habits, your goal setting. Try them. Check them out. Check them out online. Most of them are online. And see who you like best. And then you know what? Set a real goal. What day are you going to be on the air? Look at the length of their classes. Look at their courses. When do you think you should be on the air? Now, in my case, and again, this is my case, it may be very different to you. I started my first class with LICW back in January of 2023. And it was fine, suited my style. And in July, I went on the air, July 3rd, actually, of 2023. So we're looking at 7 months. My goal was to go on July the 1st, which was the Canadian equivalent to the American 4th of July. And as it turned out, work interfered. And in my business, sometimes it just takes over your life. So the first and the second, there was no way I could even get near a radio. So the third, I decided I'm going on. And I did. That's your goal. Complete your goal. Don't leave it out there uncompleted. So if you're a professional student, pick one organization, one way to do it. Don't wander from this one to that one to that one. Pick one. Because whichever one you pick can get you on the air. And that is the ultimate goal. I guess mistake number 2 for people who are out looking to decide where it is they're going to learn or study Morse code. Getting caught up in that debate. Do you learn with a straight key or a paddle? Different organizations have a preference. If you're going to study with that organization, do what they suggest. So if you're studying with an organization that thinks learning with a straight key is the best way to go, get yourself a straight key. If you're studying with an organization that says you should have a paddle, get a paddle. Neither way will stop you from getting on the air. You can get on the air both ways. Right? So you do what works best for you. And there's endless debate over these things. A lot of the things that are stressed when you learn Morse code, they're all debatable. Reminds me a bit about years ago getting my pilot's license. So in Montreal in those days, there were 3 flying clubs all at the same airfield, all beside each other. So you had a choice. You could go to the Piper Aircraft School, which was flying a low-wing aircraft. And they would tell you how wonderful it was and how much better than all the competition. It was the only way to learn. In the middle of the airfield, there was a smaller company which was flying, in those days was called a Champ, which was a high-wing, very, very small aircraft. And for them, this was the ultimate way to learn. And the third air school further down, they were flying Cessnas, the high-wing Cessnas. And boy, if you talk to them, that was the only way to go. And if you put a bunch of pilots in a room and said which aircraft is best, which is the best one to learn on, the debate would never stop. Do you learn with a straight key? Do you learn with a paddle? Pick one and stick with it. Now, in my case, just as an example, because it's a little bit of fun, I picked the Piper, learned on the low wing. When I moved to Ottawa, there were no Piper aircraft around for rentals. I had to fly a Cessna, so I switched to a Cessna. Right? No difference in going from a straight key to a paddle, or some of you who learn on a paddle and eventually end up using a straight key. Then when I bought my own plane, it was a high wing Piper, fabric, not even metal. 50-year-old aircraft. So is that what? Maybe switching from a paddle or a straight key to maybe a cootie? Who knows? Every way will get you on the air. What you do once you're on the air, what method you choose to operate, that comes with experience, comes with learning what works for you. In my case, I love a straight key. There are many other people out there will tell you, it's a paddle, got to use a paddle. You decide where you want to go. Ignore the hype. Because again, either method is going to get you on the air. And that is the only goal that counts in the end, is you getting on the air. And now we get to mistake number 3, which is, again, it's all caught up in the hype and which method you use to study and which one is the best. And this expert says that expert says something different. And this is the debate over ICR, instant character recognition. Now, I think every single person who is teaching Morse code and those learning it probably realize the ICR is exceptionally important. Now, some organizations will teach it around 14 words per minute, character speed at 14 words per minute. Some will teach 20 or 25. Some will say, no, it's got to be 30 or 32. That's their opinion. That's what they're teaching. That's what they believe in. Each one of those will work. Which one will work for you? You decide. But whatever one you do, stick with it. Don't shop around. Work your way through their program, because again, all of these schools, their programs work. The one that works for you may not be the one that works for me, may not be the one that works for your buddy. They will all get you on the air. They will all teach you. And when you're on the air, hey, you're going to get better no matter which method you learn. Very quickly, you learn to improve your comprehension. Very quickly, your speed starts to ramp up because you're on the air, not because you're thinking about it, not because you're studying, because you're actually doing it. And in the end, that is your goal. You do whatever the organization you're studying with tells you to do. Will it make a difference down the road? Probably not. Certainly not enough to impact whether or not you're going to stay on the air or you're not going to stay on the air, or you're going to get on the air or never get on the air. Don't get caught up in that hype. And yes, there are lots of videos out there with people proclaiming whatever. Don't worry about it. You have one goal. Study. Learn your characters, learn your numbers, your pro signs, whatever. Whatever the course you're following teaches you, even if you're on just a website, the website has a sequence, it has a program. Do it. Right? Be consistent. Don't do it for a few days and then stop, because with Morse code, that's not generally going to work well for you. Now, the teaching of Morse code is continually evolving. Those of us who were taught in the 80s and 90s and so on in the 70s, a lot of us were taught to memorize. Nowadays, that would be considered a no-no. Now you learn by acoustic sounds, learning the sounds of the letters, and this is the way we're being taught now. When I first learned, you sat in a class of 30 students, sometimes more, sending Morse code back and forth on oscillators. And the instructor would hold up flashcards of, in those days, called dots and dashes, not even dits and dahs. And we would have to shout out what letter he was holding up. Do we teach that way now? No. Now it's computer programs, it's acoustic sounds. So the study of Morse code is evolving. And yes, there are several different ways to teach it. But in the end, what really counts is Did you get on the air or did you not? So many of us who were taught by memorizing, of course, are still on the air. There's lots of people that have been on many, many years, 30, 40 plus years. They learned by memorizing. They adapted once they were on the air. They learned to adapt. They learned to break through whatever barriers memorizing did. So yes, Morse code is evolving, constantly evolving. There are people studying how to teach it. So things change. And what you learned many years ago may not apply now. What we're learning now, sometime down the way, that probably too, as more and more research is done, that will change. Your job? Pick a method. Stick to it. Get on the air. I'm going to say point 4, getting caught up in having to be fast, send fast, hear, compute fast, miss errors fast, 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 fast. Morse code can be very relaxing. People are at different speeds, in some cases determined, are they using a straight key? Are they using a paddle? There are people who say you must be able to do 20 words per minute. There are others that say not necessary. I even did a video on some of that. I think it's called How Fast is Fast Enough. So you can look in the down below and on this web page and you'll see it. For whatever tool that you're using, because that's what you're using. You're using a tool. Could be a paddle, could be a straight key, could be a bug, could be a cootie. You name it. All right. That's to a certain extent going to influence how fast you can be. There are lots of people out there, 10 words a minute. I know just the last couple of weeks I've had conversations with people at 5 words a minute, 8 words a minute, 10 words a minute. That was their speed. They were having fun. Why should we worry about it? We're older, so somehow we have to be faster. No, we don't. You can relax and have fun. Use whatever you're using, straight key, paddle, you name it. Use it. Practice. Of course, do a lot of it on the air because in the end, that will obviously have an impact as to how good or how, in quotes, how fast you are. Don't get caught up in, I have to be super fast, and if I'm not that speed, then I'm no good. There's an awful lot of people at very slow speeds. They're having a lot of fun. And why do we do Morse code? It's a hobby. We're trying to have fun. Have fun at whatever speed you're capable of doing. And don't be embarrassed about that speed. I guess point 5 for me is don't take too long to get on the air. The ultimate goal is to get on the air. No, the ultimate goal is to contact people, to have fun on the air. If you drag this out too long, what ends up happening is you get bored, you get frustrated, and you quit. We don't want that. We want you on the air. So I look at LICW. Well, if you were taking level 1 and 2, it's probably, roughly 15, 16 weeks. And if you add in maybe a few missed classes or whatever, you're talking 4 to 5 months. I wouldn't take any longer than that. If you can get on the air faster than that, get on the air faster than that. Just the last week, I have 2 different contacts with people, and they were new. And I asked them how long it took them to learn Morse code. And in both cases, it was 2 months. 2 months. They studied everything they needed to do, got everything down that they needed. They looked up how to do the various exchanges that we were on. In this case, it was an SKCC exchange, and they show you on their website what they would expect you to do. So here's 2 people, 2 months learning Morse code on the air, not very fast. Did they care? No. Were they racking up contacts? Yes. There was one had, in just a few weeks, 75 contacts that person had made. That's amazing. That's perseverance. That's being willing to sort of put themselves out there a little bit. So they did very well. So don't make your goal too far away. Keep it reasonable. Keep it in sight. Post it on a wall where you can see it and you can never miss it. But don't take too long, because that's probably one way to guarantee that in the end, you're not going to get on the air. Keep at it. For me, number 6, I think, is an important one. This is when you actually get on the air. How do you go about it? You know, you can get yourself so stressed out over doing what? Going on the air and sending your call sign to somebody, having them answer, and you have a quick back and forth, then you're on to the next one. Stress that individuals put on themselves. And really, how crucial is this? How deadly is this to go out and sit there with a Morse code key or a paddle and contact somebody? And again, I'll go back because I was using an airplane before. We're all bent out of shape because we have to say hello to somebody in Morse code and follow a procedure. Think about that student pilot. In my case, it was, you go through the theory, you go through the instruction with the instructor, and somewhere around hour number 10, you complete, you land, you taxi over to where your school is, and you figure that's it for the day, and the instructor hops out of the plane and says, why don't you take it up and go around 3 or 4 times and practice some takeoff and landings? That's stress. That's real stress. And yet we worry because all we want to do is send our call sign to somebody and have them send it back to us with a couple of words in Morse code. Relax. It's not the end of the world. If you blow it, nobody cares. In most cases, the first person you talk to on the air in Morse code, you'll never talk to them again. You'll never bump into them again. You don't know what they look like. You don't have a camera on you. Neither do they. It's completely anonymous. So relax and get on the air. Get over that hump. Get over that last sort of barrier that's there, that fear. And I think part of this is because we spend so much time in front of computers now. So if I go back again, looking back, old timer here, when we originally learned back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, we were in classrooms. We were sending Morse code back and forth to each other with an instructor watching and helping us. The instructor was sending us Morse code. We were sending the instructor Morse code. We all had a good laugh when we blew it. Right? You mess up what you were sending, everyone would have a good laugh, and so would you. So the embarrassment wasn't there. That deadly fear of, oh my goodness, I might make a mistake and a fool of myself. When you get on the air, that wasn't there either. It is there now. So you have to figure out how to deal with it and just basically just do it. The old Nike slogan, just do it. And I think in the first stages, once you've done that, I'm going to say the next point, don't sit back and wait for people to find you. So many times you get on the air and maybe you've made 1 contact, 2 contacts. Sometimes clubs will help set up a contact for you. And, that makes it a little easier. But once you're there and you're on your own, don't just sit back and go, oh, I can't find anybody. Nobody's calling me. Well, they're not going to call you if they don't know you're there. Maybe you'll do it by calling CQ and letting somebody answer you. Maybe you'll be on a website like the SKCC where you can post, hey, here's my call sign. I'm QRS, slow speed, and I'm brand new to CW. People will find you, people will contact you, but you have to be willing to put yourself out there a little bit. Think about it. It's not all that difficult. Take some concentration and, of course, effort. It's up to you. It's not up to a school, not up to a course. It's up to you to do it. We can all do it. Thousands and thousands have done it before us. And I think mistake number 7, not really putting the effort in, right? You're always told when you're in class and you want to learn Morse code, it's practice, practice, practice. And it is. It does require a fair amount of practice. And I think most people out there would say, 30 minutes to an hour, somewhere in there a day, but try and do it every day. And that requires some effort on the part of you, the part of the student, right? You have to set aside time to do this. So consistent practice, yes, but as important, quality practice, right? Practice to be perfect. Now, you may not be perfect, especially in the beginning. If you're practicing your sending, you're going to mess up some of your letters and so on, your dits and your das when you send. But practice and practice. Listen to yourself. Record yourself on your phone so you can see yourself improving. You can hear yourself improving. Because that's what motivates you to keep going. So on those days when, my goodness, nothing seems to be going right, you're not getting the letters and so on and so forth. Did you practice some sending? Maybe those letters will come sending, right? Follow a structure when you sit down to practice. Do a warm-up. Listen to your letters. If it's just not working that day, be willing to simply shut it down and either come back a little bit later, which often works, or in some cases, pick it up the next day. Don't just say, no, I'm too tired today, I'm not going to do anything. Do a little bit every day. And that's where the ICR comes in, because it's always fun. And you can do some ICR, 10, 15, 20 minutes of ICR, whatever, and you can sort of at least have accomplished something that day. Consistency, effort, practice, practicing quality practice. That's really what you need to do. And I'm going to say mistake number 8. I don't know which. A mistake. It's something that some of us have sort of screwed up along the way. You know your call sign. You can say what your call sign is. Can you send it? How well can you send it? Because that call sign has to go out almost absolutely perfect for someone else to understand it, for someone else to know you're there. When they answer you, what are they going to do? They're going to send your call sign. So you need to know your call sign. You need to be able to recognize it. You need to be able to send it. And not only recognize it at the speed that you're used to. So let's say you're doing, 12 words a minute, 10 words a minute. And yeah, you can pick your call sign out. And then what happens? Maybe you're having an exchange with somebody on the air. So you've exchanged call signs. So your call sign's out there, so anyone listening could hear your call sign. And you wrap up your conversation with the person you're with, and everyone says their 73s and goodbye, basically. And all of a sudden, someone sends something at 20 words a minute. And you go, ooh, was that my call sign? And you're not sure. So you sign off, shut down. There was somebody trying to contact you. You just didn't recognize your call sign. You didn't know it well enough. And yes, he may very well have slowed down to your speed once you got into a conversation. He was trying to get your attention before you shut down. So he sent at, his full speed. Know your call sign. Practice sending it over and over and over again. Every call sign has a rhythm, a pattern to it. You have to be able to use that pattern when you're sending it. You have to be able to recognize that pattern when someone's trying to contact you at whatever speed they're at. Now, in my case, it's the SVQ. There's a very distinctive pattern, right, to that the S and the V and the Q. And I can pick that out instantly. So even if I miss the VE3, I'll get that SVQ. And I don't think there's too many of us out there with an SVQ in our call sign. So practice your call sign. Learn to recognize it. Learn to send it, because it's going to become one of the most important parts of your Morse code experience. Keep that in mind. Record it. Record yourself sending. Put it on your radio. If you have a memory channel on your radio, put it in there. And of course, when you're not in broadcast mode or transmit mode, I should say, listen to it. Listen to it at 8 words per minute, maybe 10, 12, 14, 20, 25, 30. Listen to us. Make that part of your learning experience, part of your daily practice, listening to your Morse code call so you can recognize it. Simple little thing, but it will pay off, big time down the road. Point 9, it's a pretty simple one. Get off the computer. We are glued to computers when we learn Morse code, when we study. There are web pages, there are YouTube videos, there's who knows what. You can spend your entire life learning Morse code, or think you're learning it, by listening to a computer. Shut your computer down. Turn on your radio. Spin the dial. Go hunting for people who are actually sending real Morse code. Listen to the Morse code when conditions are bad. Listen to it when there's a big contest on. Get to tune your ear to what real Morse code sounds like. Not the computer-generated 100% perfect code. Real Morse code sent by individuals just like you. And that's very, very important. We spend far too much time listening to perfect code, not real Morse code. So if you can do that, if you can spend, who knows, 10, 15 minutes a day, more, turning that dial, and certainly with the waterfall, the radios with the waterfalls on, now it's pretty easy to find people. Listen to what they're sending. Doesn't matter the speed they're sending at. Try and pick letters out. Try and pick numbers out. Whatever speed you hear, that will pay off big time once you actually decide to make your first contact. Something for you to, something to consider. And I guess the very last thing I want to mention, don't take yourself too seriously. Right? That's really important. Enjoy what you're doing. Don't get uptight about it. Don't think you have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect on the air. Not at all. Right? You simply do not have to be perfect. You will make mistakes. The other guy's going to make mistakes. You both make mistakes. No one cares. People looking for a contact. They want to speak to you in Morse code. You need to speak to them in Morse code. Get over how important you think you are. They don't care. You don't care who they are, or who knows, what was their job. You don't care who they are. You don't care what their occupation is. You get to know them as you go back and forth in Morse code. We all take ourselves way too seriously. I'll make a mistake when I send. Probably hear a curse word come out of my mouth, and then I laugh at myself. Why? Because I'm the only one worried. The other guy's not worried. So, it's easy to do. We all take ourselves way too seriously on occasion. This is a hobby. It is supposed to be fun. Right? This is a hobby. It's not wartime. It's not essential. It's a hobby. Treat it like one. Get good at it. Get very good at it. But have fun with it. Because that's the reason you just put all this time and all this studying, to have fun. Anyways, hope some of these thoughts get you thinking. Hope some of these thoughts help you. And if they do, send me a little note, put a comment down below. I always appreciate those. Happy if you can like, share, obviously subscribe. YouTube likes when you do. And it encourages me as well to know that some people actually are enjoying what I'm doing and getting something out of it. So it's Keith, Victor Echo 3, Sierra Victor Quebec, also known as the Shaky Key. Wishing you all a great day. 73.